Our musical guest tonight is going to be Abigail Dowd. Oh my God, she's a shaman with a story and a song. Welcome to Live and Rockin' from the Bynum Front Porch. Coming to you almost live from the Bynum General Store in beautiful Bynum, North Carolina. We're on the banks of the Haw River. We're a little bit north of Pittsburgh and a little bit south of Chapel Hill. We're here in Chatham County, which is the geographic center of the state of North Carolina. I live just down the road in Pittsburgh. My name is Eric Bannan, and I'm your host. The first time I saw our musical guest tonight in person, I walked in the middle of one of her shows, and she was telling a story about being chased down her driveway by her grandfather, who was brandishing a cinder block. And the storyteller in me has been smitten with her ever since. She's from Greensboro, North Carolina. She can sing, she can tell stories. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Abigail Dowd.
Hey, Eric. Thank you so much. I know you give the best introductions, so thank you for that. It's very nice to be here, joining you on the Bynum Front Porch from my back porch. I thought I'd set up out here and try to get some sense of a front porch. And you sent me some questions to start with. I wonder if anybody's writing letters. I wrote my brother a letter the other day. He lives across town, but I haven't seen him in ages, so I wrote him a letter. And he wrote me back. So maybe we should all start writing letters again. But I have these questions here so that I haven't seen them yet. Be surprised. Question 1. I can hear my sweet dog jumping up on the window behind me. What is it gonna be? Oh, not too hard. I can answer this one. Where are you from, and what was it like growing up there? I am from Southern Pines-ish. Carthage, Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Moore County, the Sandhills region, the land of the longleaf pine. It was a really nice place to grow up. I am adopted into a family, the Dowd clan, and they go way, way back in the area, so it's really cool to be a native of a place. And I loved having grown up there. I hated it when I was there because I wanted to go anywhere but there. And we used to have to rake pine cones and pine straw, and it's always funny to me this time of year when everybody goes to buy pine straw and how excited people get at Christmas about getting really large pine cones, because that was the worst chore as a child. So I'm gonna sing you some songs and tell you what it was like to grow up there, starting with this one. This is called Goodbye Hometown, and it was on my last album. It is a song that I wrote after I had gotten in my car and driven all the way to the state of Maine, swearing I would never come south again. And when I got there, I bought a guitar and started writing songs, and this is the first one that fell out, and I realized I was a little homesick. I packed my bags the other day, swore I'd never find my way this way again. I drove 1,000 miles north up through the mountains and left my world behind. But I never knew what it meant to be a Southern belle till I crossed that Dixie line and said farewell. Goodbye, peaches. Goodbye, sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill, singing sweetly in the night on the longleaf pines. Goodbye, stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. Every time he'll greet you with a smile. Goodbye, hometown. I settled in New England, where the winter sky is gray and full of snow. And I traded in my bare feet for snowshoes and long walks in the cold. But these winter nights get lonely sometimes way up here, and I think of all the ones that I've held dear. Goodbye, peaches. Goodbye, sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill, singing sweetly in the night among the longleaf pines. Goodbye, stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. Every time he'll greet you with a smile. Goodbye, hometown, everyone I've ever loved. So my mom was raised in Richmond County, and there's a little town called Norman down there. And I grew up picking peaches in Norman, and my great-grandfather owned a music store. And that music store has since been torn down because it was so old. But on one side he had a barber shop, and then the Beatles came along, and people didn't want haircuts anymore. He was a smart businessman, so he opened up a music store on the other side. And I carried one of his guitars all the way to Florence, Italy, and then up to Maine, and I still have it inside, and I play it every once in a while. There's something about these old country towns up north that remind me of my grandpa's music store. And I've got his old guitar with me to play once in a while. It makes those miles not seem so far. Perhaps the best way to be grateful for the people in your life is to know what it's like when they're not near. Goodbye, peaches. Goodbye, sweet magnolia blossoms in the summertime. Goodbye to the whippoorwill, singing sweetly in the night among the longleaf pines. Goodbye, stranger, the one who'll pass you on the street. Every time he'll greet you with a smile. Goodbye, hometown, everyone I've ever loved. Well, it's not the whippoorwill, but I can hear all these birds singing. In Southern Pines, the whippoorwill usually shows up around May. When I went to college, I went to school just up the road from you guys in Chapel Hill, and I had a friend back home who would call me in the springtime and tell me that my friend was back in town and that it was about time that I come home for a visit. And it would fool me every time. He was always talking about the whippoorwill, telling me I needed to get back home, take a walk under the longleaf pines, and hear my friend the whippoorwill. I actually had a really special week of shows planned this week. And Eric, I'm so glad that you asked me to do this, because this whole COVID thing has thrown us all for a loop. But I was going to play at the Kraken with Jonathan Bird on Wednesday night. And I was going to play the Cary Theater with Daryl Mosley on Friday night. And then on Saturday, I was going to play down in Southern Pines in my hometown for what we call the Party of the Pines, which is the celebration of the birthday of the world's oldest longleaf pine tree. And we celebrate that every year. And I've been playing every year because I've written several songs about the longleaf pine. That last one had a reference to them. But I have another song called The Wiregrasser, and wiregrasser is kind of like the word hillbilly. It wasn't really meant to be a compliment necessarily, but the good people of the Wiregrass region of Alabama took it as their own and wore that name with pride. But the Wiregrass region relied on the longleaf pines, and the turpentine industry came and swept through. We used to have 90 million acres of longleaf pines that went all the way from north of North Carolina and Virginia, even a little farther maybe, and stretched all the way into Florida, the Panhandle, over into Texas, and now there's only about 3 million acres of old growth longleaf pine left, and some of that is in southern pines, and you can feel it. You can feel how old those trees are. And when you walk through the woods, Weymouth Woods is where the oldest tree is, and it's where I used to walk when I was a kid. You can see, they're like ghosts through the woods. You can see the carvings from the turpentine workers. They call it cat face on the trees, where they would tap the tree for turpentine. They'd box out the tree, and then they would put their bucket to catch the, I guess, the pitch rosin, and then they would claw at it, and it looks like a cat face. But down in the Andalusia, Alabama region, where the wiregrass grew, they called those turpentine workers wiregrassers. When I read that word, I thought, that is a song. The wiregrasser needs a song. I belong to no one. Rocky shore beneath the pines is where I come from, and I can still hear my mama calling. Come sundown, boy, you make your way back home. From the wiregrass of Alabama, down in Andalusia is where I get my name. I work this land just like my daddy, hands like leather, and I mean as those blades. 'Cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tide. Ooh, and turpentine. Well, I grew up from the ashes, sand in my shoes and pine sap running through my veins. I've got cat face carved in my sides. Whoa, and no amount of prayer will save my life. 'Cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tide. Ooh, and turpentine. Whoa, we cut them down, we let them try, and we worked them to the bone. Stomped out the devil's fire and prayed that God would save our souls. I still hear mama calling. Heaven is the only place left to call my home. God bless my soul, 'cause I'm a wiregrasser chipping down the pines. There's no more black belt prairies, only pitch tide. Ooh, and turpentine. Just realized I have this stack of questions here. It's question number 2 from Eric. And I always thank my sound man when I'm playing somewhere. I'm going to give a shout out to my husband, who has been my sound man for the last month while we figure out all of this stuff. And he's also my timekeeper. So you're going to tell me when it's time, because I could sit on a back porch and sing for hours. what is the first song you learned on the guitar? I could not have answered that question properly until about a year and a half ago, when I actually learned who wrote the song that I learned first on the guitar, or at least co-wrote it. I was in Colorado last summer, and I was taking a workshop. I go out to the Rocky Mountain Folk Festival in Lyons, Colorado every August, and a whole bunch of songwriters from all over the place come. And there was a guy that had never heard of him before. And I was reading through, trying to decide what class I was going to go to, and it's under these big tents, and we're outside all week long, and everybody camps by the river. And I'm in my tent, and I'm reading through, and I see this description, and it says that if you take this class, you will likely win the lottery and reach enlightenment, and that songwriting is fun, and we're just going to have a good time, and the topic is fear. And it's all about facing your fears and knowing that the universe has your back. And it was the most outrageous non-description I had ever read. And I said, that's the class I'm going to. So I went, and there were just a couple of us there. And I was watching this guy play the guitar, and I thought, wow, I've never seen anybody who plays the guitar the way I do. I kind of combined my classical guitar training with the way that I've learned how to play the guitar early on when I taught myself when I was about 14. And about an hour into the class, he's playing, and he makes a reference to a song that he co-wrote with Jewel. And Jewel's first album, Pieces of You or Pieces of Me or whatever it was called, came out when I was 14. And the first song I learned was You Were Meant for Me. And I always thought that I was trying to play like Jewel, and it turns out that I was trying to play like Steve Poltz. One of the first songs I learned on the guitar was You Were Meant for Me. And it was because I loved the arpeggio of the guitar. But Steve is this incredible musician, and his stage presence is untouchable. So if you ever have the chance to go see Steve Poltz, just go. You won't regret it, and then you can call and thank me. But when I got home after a week on the St. Vrain River in Colorado, hanging out with Steve Poltz, I have yet to receive my lottery check. I'm a little closer to enlightenment, and I'm at least waiting for my stimulus check. So I don't know if that's coming or not, but we'll see. I stopped being afraid of writing a really bad song, and they just poured out. And this is the first one that came to me after I met Steve Poltz, the man who wrote the first song I ever played. Co-wrote. Jewel still gets credit. But if you want a really good story, you should YouTube the story of Jewel and Steve Poltz at, I believe it was called the Salmon Festival, where they tell the story of writing that song. And it involves the Mexican drug cartel and a breaking into a hotel and a lot of drugs. It's a brilliant story. I used to know all the answers to all the questions weighing on my soul. I used to call out for someone up above. I never heard a word, so I gave up. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clear as the light. Sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. Nobody told me that I could believe in a divine that lives within me. Oh, you know it takes time to bury it with your mind. takes even more time to let it shine. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clear as the light, and sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. So I called out just to see if anyone, oh, if they would answer me. And I heard that sweet voice call from deep down inside, saying I've been here all this time to tell you that you're already home. You're already home. You're already home. Sometimes I feel like a diamond clear as the light, but sometimes I feel like a miner left behind in the dark. I used to know all the answers. It's so fun sitting out here in the evening. Usually we're on a Tuesday night. A lot of times we have a show on a Tuesday night. I'm kind of enjoying this break to be at home. And going back to that question that you asked, Eric, about where I grew up. I did grow up in Moore County, but when I was really little, we lived in Michigan. My dad was in grad school up at Ann Arbor, and then my mom and I, we moved back south, and we moved to her hometown in Norman, and I stayed with my great-grandmother. And Eric, I know you've heard this story before, but we would drive around in that big old car of hers. My cousin would drive us. We'd drive all over Richmond County for anybody that needed my grandmother to pray for them. And I just remember going to all these people's houses. We'd get in the car and I would sing songs and she would pray, and who knew I was going to make a career out of getting in cars and driving to places and singing. But when I was in Colorado last summer, I was thinking about her when I was writing this song, because we walk down to the river and we camp in the river, by the river, and I skipped a lot of class last year. Steve Poltz wasn't there last year, so I skipped class and I would take my guitar into the river and just sit on rocks and play, and this song came out. something on my mind, and I'm gonna give it to the river. I've got teardrops in my eyes, I'm gonna give it to the river. 'Cause I've got stories in my bones that want to be told. Lay my burdens down, oh Lord, and let them go. Let the river wash me whole. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. My feet are tired, Lord, they're tired. Well, I'm gonna wash them in the river. My tongue is burning, it's on fire. I'm gonna fill my cup in the river. 'Cause I've got stories in my bones that want to be told. Lay my burdens down, oh, and let them go. Let the river wash me whole. 'Cause heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. Gotta give a little, live with a little more love. What if heaven ain't waiting up above? What if it's right here? If you don't live your truth, hell will come find you. I'm gonna raise my hands up high. I'm gonna walk into the river. I'm gonna let my voice rise. I'm gonna sing out with the river. 'Cause I've got stories in my bones that want to be told. Lay my burdens down, oh, and let them go. River, wash me whole. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. Gotta give a little, live with a little more, show a little more love. Show the world what you came here made of. You gotta free your heart and follow your soul. Heaven ain't up, hell ain't below. So it was Easter weekend on Sunday, and I was thinking about my grandma. So many of the lyrics in that song just remind me of her, the way she used to sit in church. And she'd raise her hands up, everybody come lay their hands on her. And she was so proud of my Easter dress. It's funny how when you get stuck in the house for a whole month, you start getting nostalgic for things that you never thought that you actually cared about. I probably haven't bought an Easter dress in, well, ever, because my mother always bought my Easter dresses, and so that makes it a good 25 years ago or so. And Eric asked me to play a song, and it's a song about an old white house. And I remember this old white house for its front porch, and it had always had geraniums on the front porch, and this long drive off the road, and it just felt like heaven. There's a big pond, and I have some amazing memories there, but I also had some pretty intense ones for a kid, and they were the kind that you run from, that you lock in those drawers, and they always find some way of rattling out. And I finally opened that drawer one day, and was talking to my aunt about it, and she said, do you remember that little girl that used to sit on that front porch of that old white house? And she said, I remember her, and you have to go back and get her. And I thought, I can't go back there. And she didn't mean literally. And I didn't know how I was going to get back there to go get that little girl. But that's the cool thing about being a songwriter, is you just start playing your guitar, and the music just kind of leads you down the drive, and the words just kind of fall out. It unlocks drawers that you didn't know were in there. I said to somebody the other day, this is such a heavy song and so many people request it, and they said everybody has an old white house. And as dark as this song is, it does deserve to be tuned, for the strings to be in tune when I sing it. The funny thing about writing this song is that if I hadn't written this song, I never could have written the last song. Because when you bury away all those emotions and shame and fears and heartbreak, there's a lot of good memories that you bury in there too. Guilt by association and all. So I'm super grateful that I wrote this song, because it's kind of like these birds out here chirping with me. It just kind of flew away. And now I remember that old white house for all the nice memories that it had. I've been running all my life, but it never crossed my mind. Some folks take it slow and make it farther down the road. I never even made it down the drive. Been a fighter all my life, but it never crossed my mind that I can't forget the hands, first touch of a man, and I can hurt you while you look me in the eye. There's an old white house in the countryside, and it's time I turned around to go back for that girl inside. Tell her we'll roll right, hold her tight. Alone I spend my time, but it never crossed my mind that I took all the blame and I've carried all the shame, and I'm terrified you'll see it in my eyes. I'm going back to make it right, 'cause it's been on my mind. For 30 years or more, she's been pounding on the door, hoping someone else would hear her silent cry. But I'm the only one who ever hears her cry. There's an old white house in the countryside, and it's time I turned around to go back for that girl inside. Tell her we'll roll right and hold her tight. sure can't wait to get to the Bynum Front Porch in person and get to play for everybody and see you. I'm so glad that you guys are watching. If you're still watching, then thank you so much, and thank you to Eric for having me. I am going to check question number 3. This is the last question. Oh, what is the craziest thing you've ever done? Do you mean today? Because I make it a habit. What is the craziest thing you've ever done? Wow. We were just talking to our neighbors next door. We're lucky to be quarantined, surrounded by some amazing neighbors, and we talk over the fence. And they're actually my audience. They're keeping their distance. There they are. But we were just talking about how I once bought a motorcycle before I ever knew how to ride. I'd never been on a motorcycle before. I went into the store with my, at the time, very new boyfriend who was going to buy a motorcycle. I had just moved from Maine to North Carolina, and he thought that it was rather impulsive that I had done so, because when I lived in Maine, I swore I was never going to move back to North Carolina. And I moved to Maine kind of on a whim. I got rid of all of my things, and I resigned from the town council and I got a duffel bag, and I moved to Florence, Italy, and then eventually came back to the States and got in my Honda Civic and drove to Maine without a job or a place to live or knowing anybody really. Swore I'd never come home, but I was on a plane once, and I sat next to this man, and I knew immediately that he was the one. And within 2.5 months, I had found a job back in Southern Pines and moved back to North Carolina and started dating the man that I had met on the plane, but he wouldn't actually officially date me because he thought I might be crazy. And I proved to him that I was crazy when he went to buy a motorcycle, and I sat on this beautiful motorcycle, and I could plant my feet, and I had heard him talk enough about motorcycles to know that it's very important that you be able to plant your feet. So I sat on this really pretty bike. It was blue, and that made it pretty, and it was very classy. Planted my feet, and he said to the guy, "Well, how much is that one?" And the guy told me how much it was, and then he told me how much he would let me take it home for, which sounded like an excellent deal to me. So I went home with a new motorcycle. When they checked me out at the cash register, they said, "Now, which one did you get?" And I said, "I don't know, the blue one," because I didn't actually know what it was. I'd never ridden a bike before. So I took the class. They called me smooth in class because I was so good at riding. And I passed the test. I actually did better in class than Jason, who you know is my husband, because he realized he was as crazy as I am, and eventually married me. But I did go home with that bike, and after I took the class, I rode it one time around the parking lot at the Arboretum in Greensboro, and just about dropped it, and never rode it again. Jason would ride me around on Sunday afternoons when traffic was light, and after a couple years of paying the property tax and the registration fees on a motorcycle that I had no intention to ride, I decided that we should put it in the living room, because the amount of money that I paid for the bike was about the amount of money that I thought you might pay for a good painting, and this was 3D sculpture. But Jason wouldn't get rid of that god-awful couch of his that he got from some ex-girlfriend, so the bike had to go. We sold the bike, and eventually we gave the couch to the fire department, and that's when I knew I'd marry him. So the craziest thing I've ever done was probably move to Florence, Italy, and resign from the town council over the phone, and then move back to North Carolina for a boy that I met on a plane and had only known for 15 minutes, and then buy a motorcycle. One of those three, probably. I have no idea how that segues into a song. But I was a really good runner for a while. I learned how to run. I've since learned how to stay put. COVID is helping out with that immensely because any of us who are runners are having to learn how to stay home. This is a song called Run. It's about a woman who was the last person to be able to speak her language. I was reading a book about how often languages die. And as a songwriter and somebody who loves words, I thought, what would it be like if I was the last person that could understand my words and my language? And even more tragic if those were the languages that connect us to Mother Earth. Those are the ones we're losing. I am the last woman of my tongue. There's no one left where I come from. I can navigate the seas, the stars and waters speak to me. And the gods are on the run, run, run. They're on the run, 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 run. There's a halo around the moon. I know the rain is coming soon. There's gonna be a flood. Mother Earth looks to the sky. I hear her whisper, friend, goodbye. Let the water run. Let it run, 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 run. Let it run, 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 run. I call out to the ones who came before. Tell me, what can I do? And they say, daughter, our stories cannot help you anymore. No one can hear you. We've lost the language of the land, and there's no woman, child, or man who knows where they come from. We are running out of time to save this planet, humankind. Oh, where will you run? Where will you run, 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 run? When there's nowhere to run, run, run. You better run, 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 run. I'm going to leave you with one last song before I turn this back over to Eric, who is alive and rocking at the Bynum Front Porch. This last song is a song that I wrote to Grandmother Moon and Grandfather Sun and Mother Earth, and it seems like a really nice one to sing out here on my back porch with all these kids screaming and running around in their backyards. It sounds so nice, much better than the lawnmowers and the leaf blowers. So here you go. Here's Grandmother Moon. Say a prayer to Grandmother Moon, shine a light on me. You wax and wane just the same. Teach me how to be a woman who walks the land with strength and wisdom I will stand. Grandmother Moon, I pray to thee. Mother Earth walks by my side. I never feel alone. Her mountains, valleys, rivers, streams are the places I call home. She gives me everything I need, for every pain a remedy. The ground below and the air I breathe, Mother Earth takes care of me. Grandfather, son, please do not hide away for long. We pray for rain to fill the wide river, but when the storms pass on, paint a rainbow in the sky, part the clouds that block your light. Grandfather, son, please do not hide. And I will carry the light so I can find my way. And when at night I lay my head to Creator, I give thanks. Oh, Creator, I give thanks. Oh, Creator, I give thanks. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you to the Bynum Front Porch for having me. Eric, I think we should do a song together before this is over. So, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
And we are going to close with a little internet duet between me and Abigail. And our final song tonight is Wade in the Water. And here we go.
All right, Eric. You ready to see if we can do this? I love this song. It's such a great one, and it always reminds me of Vance Gilbert. I know the two of you practically share a birthday. I think you said you're 2 days apart, right? I see him out in Colorado every summer. A group of songwriters, we get together, and at some point we all end up in the river, and then you hear Vance's voice, and he starts singing this song. Everybody starts singing it. You've got me singing the soprano part. We'll see if I can hit all these high notes and do it justice. Here we go. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children,
Wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water.
See those children dressed in white,
Wade in the water,
must be the children of the Israelites.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Wade
in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those children dressed in red,
Wade in the water,
must be the children that Moses led.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Wade
in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those children dressed in blue,
Wade in the water,
must be the ones that made it through.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Wade
In the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those children dressed in black,
Wade in the water,
must be the ones that are never going back.
God's gonna trouble the water.